Thank you, Jess. So we're talking today about equitable access to the outdoors. As members of organizations that conserve, manage, and provide public access on Bay Area lands, you all know that accessing the outdoors isn't one kind of experience. It isn't only being in nature, although the importance of being in nature can't be overstated. Accessing the outdoors also means participating in its stewardship, like managing safe use, restoring ecological function, reducing threats of severe wildfire, building trails and other access-related infrastructure. It also means equitable access to conservation planning even, so collecting data and finding important places to conserve. Equitable access to regional conservation planning will be the topic of a webinar next week. We'll put in a link in the chat. Go ahead and click that link and please join us next week when we talk about equitable access to regional conservation planning. But today we're talking about equitable access to the outdoors. And of course, that means equitable access to the wide range of stewardship opportunities, as well, of course, as simply being in nature. So we're joined today by practitioners from multiple Together Bay Area member organizations who are going to tell us what working toward equitable access to the outdoors looks like on the ground. And as we go, we invite you to post your questions in the chat and we'll address them in the Q&A after the presentations. So first up, please join me in welcoming a trio who will tell us about conducting wildfire restoration projects and creating outdoor experiences and job pathways. We'll hear from Tyler Pitts, who's Chief Program Officer for Conservation Corps North Bay, Stephen Addison, who's the Conservation Program Manager with Civicorps, Edgar Echevarria, Director of Social Enterprise Operations for the San Jose Conservation Corps. Welcome, gentlemen, and we're going to start with you, Tyler.
All right, great. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everyone. Give me just a moment to share my screen and get the presentation up here.
Looks good.
All right, great. All right, so hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Pitts. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Conservation Corps North Bay. And I'm here today alongside representatives from the San Jose Conservation Corps, as well as Civicorps, which is the local corps based in Oakland. And so we are all members of the California Association of Local Corps, which includes 14 independent nonprofit corps, and we're spread across the state. And we're all working year-round on programs that are meant to engage young people in conservation and job training. Today, I want to highlight a few programs where we're utilizing partnerships across the Bay Area to provide some really unique outdoor learning experiences and career paths to our participants. So I'm going to start off by sharing about the Fire Foundry program. And this is a new program at CCNB where we're putting together we're leveraging the power of partnerships to create equitable pathways into the fire service and some related careers. So this program was started just last year, and it's meant to address a pretty severe lack of diversity in the fire service. Nationally, we've got 82% of firefighters who are white and only 5% who identify as female. And that persists in part because it can be really challenging to understand how to start a career in the fire service. So as a result, you have new hires who are often the white male friends and relatives of the existing white male workforce. So the constituents in Marin County saw this, and the Fire Foundry program was started to try to counteract that trend by targeting recruitment efforts towards people of color and women to fill the gaps that have historically prevented those groups from considering careers in fire. So we've got 3 equal partners who make this program run. There's Marin County, there's the College of Marin, and then there's us, CCNB. So the county is doing things like program design, they're managing recruitment, and they're providing mentors to each participant who goes through the program. At the College of Marin, they're hosting a wide variety of courses that the participants enroll in while they're in the program. So that looks like 12 months of coursework that serves as this bridge into the Fire Academy. And then at CC&B, we're the spot where the participants can gain hands-on work experience doing wildland fuels reduction and defensible space projects and getting that firsthand experience. So we are just in our second year now, but I would say that we've learned a lot already. First, there is a lot of interest from the communities that have been historically underrepresented. So far, we're seeing 75% of our participants are people of color and 25% identify as female. It's way up from the national stats that I mentioned a minute ago. Second thing that we've learned is that, and this is something we already knew, is that you have to set up a program to meet the needs of the population that you're serving. And so in our case, we found that exams were a real challenge for many of the participants. And we saw them really struggle there in the first year. So during year 2, we've been using tutors and group study sessions, and sometimes even temporary reductions to part-time work, so that our participants really have the time they need to prepare for these exams that are really challenging, and to make sure that they have that opportunity to be successful. And lastly, each of the 3 partners have been learning a lot from each other. And we each have our areas of expertise, but that means we also each have our own blind spots. And so the conversations aren't always easy, but we've been able to push on each other when needed, and in order to make sure that we call out biases that, if they aren't addressed, are just going to promote the status quo rather than moving towards the change that this program is meant to make. So that's a dynamic that's going to continue. And in the long run, I think it'll be a really big benefit to the success of this program and others like it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Stephen from Civicorps.
Good morning, everyone. As Tyler said, I'm Stephen Addison with Civicorps. I manage our conservation program, and like a lot of the local corps, we do a plethora of environmental and conservation work. I'm also one of the many staff members involved in our outdoor venture program. Civicorps has been serving adults in the East Bay for about 40 years. This month, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary, and we're pretty proud of that. Like, as I said, like most corps, we do a lot of environmental work, but what we've been lucky enough to have for the past 25 years is an outdoor adventure program. And this has allotted many, at this point, hundreds of our young adults to participate in different outdoor activities, such as sea kayaking. We've gone to Tawani's Bay, camped at Angels Island, American River. We've done some river rafting there. This year, we did 3 different trips to the American River, and also car camping. So this year we did Yosemite National Park and state parks and at Humboldt, Redwood State Parks in Humboldt County. And we had a blast, especially pre-COVID. What we've also gotten to do is partner with a lot of organizations throughout the Bay Areas. ETC, which somebody put into the chat, Environmental Travel Campaigns is one of our bigger partners for the last 25 years. Also BOTS, Bay Area Wilderness Training, that we rent our gear from. And we get funding from programs such as Save Our Redwoods. And so we got a big grant for them that helped us go to the Redwoods and to Yosemite National Park. And of course, the countless staff hours here on deck that put in for these programs. It takes a lot of just organizing and getting things together for our young adults. And what our pre-surveys, besides these wonderful comments, stress-free, connecting to the land, expanding their idea of what conservation looks like. So all of some of the things we found out in our pre-surveys, but we also found out that only 10 to 15% of our young adults have ever went camping before, which is kind of like for folks in the conservation field can kind of seem like a very low number, and it is for us. But what we found at the end, our post surveys, is that 90% of them want to go again. And so that's a big deal. And some of the things that they mention is the camaraderie ship, these hanging out together, and the good food that we do on camping trips. Next slide, please. Far too often, our young adults are policed in their day-to-day lives. And so that means at home, at work, with their friends, just walking around. And so what some of these outdoor trips do allow our young adults is to escape some of those external pressures, which means for us, the group leaders, we need to be very careful how we manage our expectations of our young adults, And one of those things is these trips are magical. What these young adults get to experience, what the joy they get to just to express, it looks different from everyone. And so we have to be just very careful what that looks like when we as trip leaders are trying to manage that. And just realizing the outdoors, we need to be more equitable in what that looks like. Sometimes it's playing music and having a dance-a-thon in the middle of the wilderness. And so we've done that. And we just need to be careful how we curate that. But that doesn't mean that any and everything goes. And so prior to our trips, there's a lot of serious conversations we happen about how we're representing ourselves, the organization we're with, and some of our sponsors and organizations. But we try our best at minimum just to not manage their excitement and joy. And I'd like to pass it on to Edgar.
All right, thank you, Stephen. I'm Edgar Echevarria with the San Jose Conservation Corps Operations Director. I want to talk about a project we just recently had this summer. A very special project we did was called the Spike. So our crews worked 8 days back to back, Wednesday through Wednesday. They take 6 days off. So they do 4 consecutive spikes to do work at Butano State Park. And y'all remember in August 2020, we had wildfires. So in this area, we had the CZU fires. So a lot of our crews knew of the fires, right? We all had to stay indoors. We all had to wear masks for different reasons other than COVID. But when that happened, right, Corps members didn't really know the severity. The wildfires, well, actually, Butano State Park from San Jose, it's about 60 miles away. So it's not that far. But most of our Corps members had never gone to a state park. They've never been to the Redwoods. So I want you to think about, the first time you went to a state park, so the first time you went and saw the Redwoods and what that felt like, what that experience is like. So these are young adults. They've never experienced it. About an hour and a half drive. They were just in awe going out there. None of them had ever gone camping before. So not only are they camping, they're here to work. So we can move over to the next slide. And so to prepare for this, our crews had to go through rigorous training. They did first aid CPR, they did OSHA 10, they did a 40-hour power saw class with S212, so they can do the technical aspect to what they're doing. They can maintain their saws while they're out and about in the crews. They had to learn how to cook, how to set up camp. Again, none of these folks had ever gone camping. We applied through a Forestry Corps grant to get the fundings to get the tents, the materials, sleeping bags, all of that sort of stuff to get the crews going, and then just winding down. So again, just access to this area, learning about the land, learning about the fires. We had winters, storms that also blew over the trees. We worked on about 2 miles of trails that is inaccessible at the moment. So it was a canyon trail. Hopefully they'll open up soon. So with that, we just conclude our presentation. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, all three. Sorry, I was having trouble finding my mute button. Edgar, thank you. And thank you, Tyler and Stephen. You each gave us such a unique on-the-ground window into equitable access. And congrats to Civicorps on 40-year anniversary. That's excellent. Next, we're going to hear from Adriana Guerrero-Nardone. Adriana is the executive director of Brown Girls Surf, and is going to talk about a policy that they helped to change to allow for more equitable access. Creating equitable access comes in many forms, including who can get a permit to lead a program at the beach. So with that, welcome, Adriana.
Thank you. I'm just experiencing a little difficulty, so I'm just waiting for my tech support with the slides. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
The inevitable wait.
Sorry, 1 second here. I'm just pulling everything together.
Mm-hmm. All good.
It's where you need like Jeopardy music or like something in the background just to like fill it.
Does somebody want to join me in a
Sorry, if you
barbershop?
could just give me 1 more second. I'm looking for all my buttons here.
You got it.
No worries. I apologize in advance if you hear some of my doggy friends because they're hanging out with me as well.
I'm muted, but I love that part of remote work is like the family and the dogs and the real life gets to join in on the work.
Oh, absolutely. I took them to the park this morning so they would be really quiet during this time, but okay, awesome. Here we go. Just gonna wait till
All
it's
right.
slideshow.
good?
Thank you so much. Perfect. I appreciate you so much, Laura. Welcome to Equitable Access at Pacifica State Beach by Brown Girl Surf. My name is Adriana Guerrero. My pronouns are they, she. And slide. This is one of my all-time favorite photos. Maybe I'm biased because I'm in it, but it just really encapsulates just like the energy that we have. This was the last day of summer camp last year. And who is Brown Girl Surf? So we are a community of girls, women, and gender expansive folks of color who share a connection and or a desire to connect to the ocean. Our mission is to build and support a surf culture rooted in joy, inclusion, environmental reverence, and self-empowerment. And we do this through surf programs and beach days where our community comes together to play, heal, and connect in the ocean. Slide. So why do we care about Pacifica State Beach, also known as Lindamar? And so what's really important about this for us we are based in Oakland. And so in the East Bay, it's the closest beginner surf beach, surf break to the East Bay, which is 56 miles round trip. And I don't know if anyone's ever taken public transportation to Lindamar, but our folks have done it and it's close to 2 hours. The other part about Pacifica State Beach, there's most likely gentle and consistent waves throughout the year. And then the other piece, which is really great about Pacifica State Beach, is the accessible location and amenities. And so if you were to take a bus, there's a lot of lines that run through, and there's parking lots, there's also bathrooms. And I think also one of the greatest things about this beach too is there's a ramp. And so anyone that has wheels or in need of accessing the beach in other ways of 2 legs, I think that is also great. Slide. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to like keep track of my 2 computers. Okay, so permits are actually required or were required at this beach for nearly 2 decades. The city of Pacifica operated a surf camp permitting program which granted access to the same for-profit surf companies and schools. They kind of had a monopoly over it, and there was no mechanism for the inclusion of additional groups, which included nonprofits, provide access for community members who have not only historically faced barriers, but systemic barriers to coastal access. And this system has proven to be discriminatory, exclusionary, and illegal and or unsanctioned, depending on the language you want to use. This system was actually in direct violation of the guidelines by the California Coastal Act on equitable beach access to the beach, and its enforcement lacked compliance with the California state law. And with all of that information, Brown Girl Surf, City Surf Project, and so many allies worked together with the City of Pacifica and the Coastal Commission to reform the system. Slide. Oh, perfect. And so we have been advocating, and we, Brown Girl Surf, City Surf Project, and other allies, including all of our friends that are listed on that and beyond, the individuals that have written letters, made public comment, and beyond, have been advocating for change since 2018. I think that's what's really important is to notate the time that this has taken since we are in 2023. And it was not only until 2020 that we began working closely with the City of Pacifica and other local stakeholders to create a more equitable beach permitting system. And after finally 18 months of so many Zoom sessions, all virtual via the task force, and 18 months of work. Our first iteration, called the Community Access Partnership Program, acronym CAP, was unanimously approved by the first Pacifica PBR. So it's a Pacifica Beach Recreation Council, and then at the larger level, the Pacifica City Council. I'm sorry if everyone can hear that alarm that is happening right now in my neighborhood. Its approval signified the creation of the first. Sorry, I had to wait until the ambulance passed for the fire. Its approval signified the creation of the first permitting program in the state of California to make space for nonprofits at the beach. Slide. And this photo is pretty epic in terms of like our history and archive. This is Mira, the co-founder and former executive director, and community members at the paddle out that was in call for Black Lives by Black Girls Surf in June of 2020. And so Brown Girl Surf showed up to support our team. We had a little table talking about racism in surfing and equitable beach permitting. And Mira actually was called to the megaphone when folks were chanting Brown Girl Surf. And Mira had to point out that, yes, there is support for our organizations like Brown Girl Surf and City Surf Project and other organizations like us. And also, we have not had access to do programming at beaches like Lindemar. And so then we had showed up at the Pacifica City Council, and I mean, showed up in a way of virtual comments, public comments, written letters. And I think that really is a testament to what has been successful of our work. It is community organizing. It is grassroots. It is individual by individual that really made this possible. And that led to the task force creation, which, as I mentioned, led to over 18 months of work over Zoom. And that led into the unanimous approval by both of the levels of the Pacifica City Council. Slide. And then we learned in 2022 that it was actually unsanctioned all along. We have been in deep partnership with the Coastal Commission throughout this time. And while we were working together and understanding what did this look like throughout the Coastal Act and throughout the coast of California, in April 2020, this system was found to be in violation of requirements set by the Coastal Act, California's landmark 1976 Coastal Protection Law, and therefore it was suspended. As you can note by the highlight of the text that is listed there, according to the Coastal Commission staff, and previous attempts at revision of the system, including those submitted by the Pacifica State Task Force in 2021, was noted that although it was well intended, it still largely mimicked the previous program. And so that's where we were able to work even more closely with the current team at Pacifica State Beach and the Departments of Recreation to create what looks most equitable for not only for Brown Girl Surf and City Surf Project, but any other organization that is interested in accessing Lindemar. Slide. And then finally, this was elevated to the Coastal Commission after we had spent many months with the city of Pacifica working on and finalizing what the permitting system could look like. We spoke at the Coastal Commission hearing, and it was raised up on May 11th. The Coastal Commission unanimously voted to approve the passage of the City of Pacifica's coastal development permit, which was necessary in order for the city to have a beach permitting system, was fully authorizing a reformed surf school permitting program at Lindemar Beach. And this work being done in Pacifica it's definitely setting a precedent for the rest of California, where many nonprofits like us and other community organizations that we work with throughout the coast of California and community organizations have faced similar permitting exclusion. Slide. And just in conclusion, I'd like to leave you all with a thought is just like, while we remain grateful and continue to celebrate our community's success, we maintain an ongoing reflection, internal and among our work, is what does equitable access truly mean on land that is stolen? And I'd like to leave you all with that same contemplation as we are having this conversation around equitable access. And just as we all shared where we're calling in from, I think that's an important reflection to share with you all.
Thank you so much, Adriana, for that and for sharing such an inspirational story of action, maybe even a saga. When you include the Coastal Act and the Commission, you set a powerful, powerful precedent. Thank you for sharing. Last up, let's hear from Emma Usat. Emma is she's a senior community engagement manager with Santa Cruz Mountains Trail Stewardship. Emma's going to tell us about her organization's work with the youth community to build trails on the new Cotoni Coast Dairies National Monument. Thank you for being here with us today, Emma.
Yay!
Take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I thank you, Together Bay Area, for hosting this. I think it's so important, and I know I'm already feeling pretty inspired. Yes, so my name is Emma. I'm the Community Engagement Manager at Santa Cruz Mountains Trail Stewardship. I use she, her pronouns, and I have a little presentation today about Cotoni Coast Dairies and getting youth out on the new property. So before I start, just a little background on SCMTS for those who aren't familiar. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we build and maintain trails throughout Santa Cruz, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties. So really, we work to help land agencies. We partner with land agencies and nonprofits and people who own land to help them maintain and build trails. And that means everything from advocacy to fundraising to building volunteer workforces, educating the public. We really see ourselves as a bridge between the land agency and the public. And so getting the community out and on the properties and building that stewardship and that ownership is a really big part of what we do. And it's a really big part of my job at SCMTS. We're also a licensed contractor, so we also sometimes go to bid on public projects. One of our really big projects that we've been working on for a few years now, actually many years if you count all of the advocacy, which we say is the hard part, is Cotoni Coast Dairies National Monument. And I do want to mention this is on the unceded territory of the Cotoni tribe. And there were many parts of this project that I could have talked about today in terms of equitable access, because it's really the whole part of like what we do at SCMTS. You know, by involving the public, we really need to make sure that our whole community is a part of the process. That's really our whole mission, is making sure that everyone in our community is a part of that advocacy and that support and the building and the maintenance of the trails. And so I could have talked about how we, advocated for ADA accessible trails and designed and built those trails. I could have talked about how we worked with the Amamutsun Land Trust, but I really wanted to talk about a specific program today in the light of being with this group of people specifically, because it's all about partnering with other organizations to create a program. And so to kind of set the scene here, for those who don't know, Cotoni Coast Dairies is a really big piece of land, 6,000 acres. It's a part of the California Coastal National Monument. So that includes like over 200 islands off the coast of California. And there's only 2 onshore units. One is at Fort Ord down south of Santa Cruz here. And then Cotoni Coast Dairies was actually added to it, is one of the last things President Obama did before he left office, within weeks of leaving office, actually. So thanks, Obama. So it's a Bureau of Land Management property, and SCMTS came on to fundraise $3 million to build the trails, and we designed the trails, and we will be maintaining the trails after they're built. It's really beautiful, by the way. If you ever want a private tour, email me and I will gladly take you out there. It's not open to the public yet, but we have completed about 6 or 7 miles of trail. Yes, so I talked a little bit about this just in the light of time. I'm going to keep moving here, but these are the 2 major parcels of trails that we are working on. And yeah, what I really wanted to talk today about with you all is the Earth Stewards program. And I'm just really excited about this program. I love it. And I just love collectivism and everything this represents. So the Earth Stewards program is one of the many programs that we have at SCMTS that we partner on with the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History, which is another nonprofit here in Santa Cruz. And we also partner with a lot of alternative education high schools. So basically, it's a service learning program, and we bring out underrepresented communities and alternative education high school students every month to do trail work with us for a whole day. And we've been partnering for the last 6 years, and we've been bringing out students every single month to work on the Chitoni Coast Areas National Monument Project. So really, it's important that we've been partnering with these other groups because everyone is bringing something different to the table, and everyone is bringing their unique, their unique expertise and what they specialize in. These are some nice photos from the property. And just to kind of talk a little bit about our goals, our ultimate goal of the program is really to get these high school students out into nature, give them some agency in taking care of it and protecting it. And through our program, we're helping kids build strong natural connections with the environment. We want them to learn life skills. And ultimately, we really want all of our people who participate in our program to go on to have outdoor careers. But of course, we have to start slow. And so in our last year, we had over 300 kids from alternative education and underrepresented communities participating in our program. And something that we're really proud of is that for the first time, we've been doing this for a while now, and we're starting to see it come full circle. And so we actually have a summer youth trail crew at SCMTS. It's an 8-week program. It's a paid position where we hire 6 high school age students to do trail work with us all summer. And for the first time, we were able to actually hire 3 students that participated in Earth Stewards to be on our summer youth trail crew. And this year, for the first time, we also saw 3 students from prior classes go on to work either at California State Parks or city parks, and actually 1 student on our pro trail crew. So we're starting to kind of see a really big impact, and it's starting to come full circle. And really, I just wanted to talk about this program because, I'm really passionate about partnering up with other organizations to do programs. I think it's just a better outcome for everyone. And I could go on about the benefits of getting youth outdoors, and some have already talked about that today, and I think we're all familiar with a lot of the reasons why. But I also really wanted to touch on why it's just so much better when we all partner together. So of course, there's community engagement. We can all use our different channels, our different connections, equitable access. And I mean that in also a physical way. Like SCMTS, for example, has relationships with all the land agencies that we've built over the last 25 years. And so by partnering with us, the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History literally gets access to properties that may not be accessible to them otherwise. And then educational empowerment, of course, like I mentioned earlier, we have specific expertise around trails, sustainable trail building. And then the Museum of Natural History has expertise on the history of Santa Cruz and geology and other really specific things. And then career pathways. All of the organizations here today have different insider knowledge, or Together Bay Area has an awesome job board. It's helpful for all the participating students if we band together and share with them opportunities they might not know about. And yeah, I just wanted to share some like takeaways and tips. And I could go on and on about all of these slides, but I just want to give time to ask questions at the end. But yeah, I think the main things I've learned in partnering with other groups to host programs is focusing on inch-wide, mile-deep partnerships. I think that's really important. You know, it can be easy to try to partner with all the different groups, which we do for some of our programs, but for a program like this, where we're trying to have a really long-term impact and opportunity for students, I really appreciate that we have a really tight relationship with a few high schools and the Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History, because I can call or text up all the teachers and all the other program managers, and we can meet for coffee. And we have this really close relationship where we really know each student really well, and we can, you know, we can do what's best for each student. Be relentlessly welcoming. I put that there because I will just keep emailing each student about our summer youth trail crew or about other opportunities. And I know that, you know, even when I was that age, I might have been not sure if I was qualified to do a job or to go to something. And I think like maintaining that welcoming and inclusivity, it's not just having an opportunity, it's really like inviting the actual students to come. And so I think that in the full circle is really important. Just keep from all angles, everyone stay connected. And then highlighting the impact. I think with youth, it's especially important to really show them the impact. And again, it's a part of that kind of like connection and that communication, like emailing them again after the fact, making sure they're getting shared and getting invited to the property after it's open or after it's complete, and pointing out, hey, you remember when you guys worked on that? And sharing photos, I think, is really important. Being patient with outcomes and goals. You know, we've been talking today, a few people here have mentioned how long it took to have progress. And like I said, we've been working with Earth Stewards for 6 years, and only this last year have we finally been able to actually hire some of the students or helped them get hired by other organizations. And I'm just so proud of that and so excited to keep that momentum going. And I think lastly, you know, being transparent and open with partners and communicating often. Like I was saying, it's really great to have kind of these deeper relationships with our partners and focusing on one partnership at a time to have a more meaningful impact. And I think just being really open about your goals and your availability and what you can do is really important. And ultimately, I think something that's really great for everyone involved is it's just more fun when we all work together.
You're here.
Yeah, it's more fun for the instructors. It's way more fun for the kids. It's like interesting for them. They get to see this trail crew, they get to have the museum staff, and they get to meet other students from other schools. And it's more fun for everyone. It really is. And I think that's really important. It should be fun. Like all this work should be, you know, positive, and it trickles down. And yeah, those were my main tips I wanted to share, main parts of the program. This is Javier. He was in the Earth Stewards program. Then he got hired on our summer youth trail crew, and he wants to help lead the summer youth trail crew next year. So we're going to be training him to do that. So yeah, thank you so much. Here's my contact information if you want to email me or if you want a tour of Coast Aries. But again, thank you to Together Bay Area for bringing everyone together.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you so much for sharing about Chotoni Earth Stewards program, and your excellent tips for making impact, sustained impact. That was wonderful. I loved your point about engendering a sense of agency for the young people in your program. Folks, we've heard 5 different stories today, and they were really all stories about impact. There were stories about patience, and I'm going to echo you, Emma, and it's about having fun as well. We saw a lot of smiles in those photos. Thank you, all 5 of you, for sharing today. And Annie, I'm going to ask you to join me on stage to moderate some questions for our speakers.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, and thank you everybody for your presentations. Emma, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a groundswell of requests for a field trip. So, and I bet there are to the other locations as well. So there are more conversations, more connections to have when we're not on the Zoom screen. I want to ask one question of the group, and then we will transition to our guest speaker after these presentations. And that question is around, the question is, what is one tactical way, one like thing that we can all do to pay attention and to be allies? You know, I heard it throughout all of the presentations, different things that you're doing to connect with people that don't feel connected in whatever way that is, in whatever shape or form that is. So I'm curious what you and your teams do, you know, as professionals doing this work. What do you do to slow down, to pay attention, and to really make connections, to be allies, or to build alliances? And I'm trying to push for tactics so that we can all, when we click out of this Zoom, it's something that we can bring into our work in a very tangible way. And I'm really curious. And Emma, actually, I wonder if you could go first, because you ended your presentation talking about kind of the tips, and that will buy some time for the other folks to think about their answers. What are your tactical tips for connecting and for being allies?
You mean with the participants or with other partners?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. You choose.
Maybe both. Maybe both. I think, you know, I kind of mentioned it in my presentation. I am so passionate about collectivism and so passionate about working with other groups. And I think leaning on people who are already connected to the groups you're trying to serve. And it was mentioned throughout a lot of presentations, but you know, making sure that your programs and your opportunities are of, by, and for the people they're serving is extremely important. I participated in a program called Of, By, For All, and I recommend looking it up and maybe participating as well. Yeah, I think with the participants, you know, I don't have like data for this, but like personally, you saw I have like selfies with the kids, and like the picture that I shared was me and Angel, and I ended up hiring Angel, and I really think it made a difference that me and my staff, we like make a point to really connect personally, and we're kind of silly and we're fun and we're approachable, and like I said, relentlessly welcoming. Like Angel mumbled like that he was interested in applying for a job with our crew, and then I was like, oh really? And I was really excited about that. And then I didn't see an application, so I like followed up, and then I asked if he needed help, and then, you know, I just kept following up. And I know it's not necessarily, you know, it's not like something that is that I don't know, easy to do, but or like required, but I really, if you're passionate about it, I feel like it's worth going the extra step, and I feel like it's appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Who'd like to go next? Tyler.
All right, sure. You know, what comes to mind first for me is really listening to the participants, and you know, letting that input that you get from participants, trying to use that to shape the design of whatever the program is. You know, that was something I touched on when I was speaking, is that all the partners are learning from each other, and that's one of the pieces that we've really trying to bring to the table. Is like, sure, there's a lot of ideas out there, but what are the participants who are in the program right now telling us? You know, because if we want to make them successful and make the future thems successful, that's the best source of information, not a group of other people sitting in a room thinking about it. So
that's great. That applies in all kinds of contexts, doesn't it? To really, really listen. Adriana, do you want to go next? Or Edgar, did you unmute in order to jump in?
Yeah, if y'all don't mind. Yeah, there's the component of the openness and just experiencing and just introducing, but also I want to talk about workforce development in general, because the type of work we do, conservation work, there, you know, there's Peace Corps, there's volunteer stuff, there's like things people can do. Volunteering is a privilege, right? To be able to have time. A lot of our participants, they can't even think about volunteering, but it's not that they don't want to participate. They just have other financial responsibilities they need to take care of. So workforce development, being able to, from a funding source, like, I'm sorry, but money is just a great way to move the needle. Through Calc, we do have the Calc advocacy Calc Foundation to, it's really just getting that workforce development, getting that money in there. And I also want to echo Stephen, Save the Redwoods, their wonderful partner. We offered many grants just to do recreational stuff, just do camping, nothing else, but just recreational. With the introduction leads into the stewardship, leads into the learning, the education, and the want to take care of.
Thank you. That sounds like it's part of your work, if I could use a metaphor, is opening the door, and helping people walk through the door, to Emma's point. How do we help people see that there is a door? How do we open the door? How do we help them walk through the door, and listening and supporting along the way? Adriana?
Yeah, thank you, Annie. I definitely +1, Edgar, what you just shared. I think that's really important to uplift about how volunteering is a huge privilege. I think one of the things that Brown Girls Surf we are so grateful for is our volunteer base, because almost all of our surf instructors are volunteer. And that is intentional, and so that it is reflective of the community in whom we serve. I think around what it means to be an ally in this space, I think there's two places. I think the fact that we're all sitting in this place, there is a level of power and privilege that we have in terms of decision making, or the ability to influence decision makers. And so what does it look like to potentially hold conversation, hold people accountable, have challenging and difficult conversations, as well as be quiet and leave space for folks that haven't historically had the ability to be at the table to give their perspective and lived experience. I think the other piece, which was brought up, and I do appreciate the idea of having a welcoming attitude in the outdoors. I think the reality of that doesn't always equal what we think that it does. I think particularly to surfing, there's the idea of localism that happens, and there is a level of violence that happens. And I mean, from physical violence to verbal violence to assault to all the things. And so I think a way to be an ally, particularly in the ways at the ocean and surfing, is to smile at people when you're there. That is the ultimate way to be welcoming. It's a lot different to say your words. I think that there's a lot of nonverbal ways that we can be allies and encourage people to be like, hey, this is a space for you, and I want you to come back to it. I think that's one of the things that Brown Girl Surf is working on, is also not just the ways that we create space for people to feel comfortable, but we also want it to be a space where they feel comfortable coming back to when they're not with us. And the reality of that is actually not high, and it's not just Brown Girl Surf. There's a lot of other affinity spaces in the outdoors that people just feel safer. And so I think that there's things like that, and when you see something, you say something, and that is a way to be an ally. You see someone saying some, excuse me, but some shit in the lineup, confront them, or in the parking lot, and ways to address that, so that the emotional labor is not on that individual, that is on the receiving end.
Thank you so much. There's a lot in there. One piece I want to hold on to is just smile. Smile. We can all smile. It's really powerful. All right, Stephen, will you take us home, and we'll wrap up this panel after, what's one thing, a tactical way that you are in allyship?
I just want to say, listen to everybody. That was incredible. That was amazing. I can't come up with anything. It might just because it's lunchtime, but I feed people. I invite potential partners here to see what we do here, and we have lunch. And with our members, if they're having a bad day, it might be just time to have a taco and sit down and just talk about what's going on in life, right? So for me at least, sometimes it's offering a meal, and so just breaking bread with somebody. So that's kind of my quick and easy. And again, it's probably lunchtime, but yeah, just feeding people. So thank you.
Love that. It's right on topic and almost time for lunch. And it's really meaningful. Breaking bread with people is something we all do and really valuable. So thank you. Please, everybody, join me in thanking Tyler, Stephen, Adriana, Edgar, and Emma. So appreciate your time. So appreciate your contributions to this event, but also more importantly out in the world. Thank you all so much for being here. We're going to transition to the next phase of our event, and that is a transition from the local to the regional to the state. So we've been hearing today about projects that are happening on the ground locally, led by local organizations. And Together Bay Area is one of the roles that we do is bring them together at the regional stage. And we work on things like our advocacy program and funding for State Coastal Conservancy, which is really guided by their JEDI guidelines, which I really appreciate. We work on our right relations program and building alliances with tribes and Native groups. We have a jobs board, which was brought up, so that you can find jobs and post jobs. And so that's happening at the regional scale. And if you'll join me in a pretend helicopter, we'll go up to the state level, where at the state level, they're looking obviously at the whole state in a very large geographically, but also large population, large set of issues and diversity of populations and communities and issues. Anyway, so I'm really thrilled to welcome to the stage Deputy Secretary for Access, Catherine Toy. And we're going to try to connect the local to the state to the regional, sorry, I said that in the wrong order, the local to the regional to the state, and explore what that means, because we are fortunate to live in this state with really strong leadership like Catherine's, and I want to make that connection. So welcome, Catherine. Really glad that you're here. We've been talking about projects that work to increase access to the outdoors. Can you tell us kind of how you heard today's projects? Like, what do they mean to you, and how do you hear and process them from your position?
Loved hearing all of these presentations today, and to see, I mean, it's going to take all of us to build a more equitable outdoors, and that while we're putting forward a state strategy, it's not something the state can do alone, nor should it. And, it really takes all of us adopting these values and the vision of a more equitable outdoors. And I just, couldn't be more thrilled to hear what's happening on the ground, because that's where the real work happens.
Yeah, that's great. So how we've been talking about a few different definitions or ways of thinking about equitable access, and that's access and equity and equitable access. How do you think about these terms and what's all included?
Well, I mean, I think the vision is really to have equitable access, meaning everyone can experience the outdoors and enjoy California's outdoor environment, regardless of who they are or where they live. And it also means that experience is welcoming, it's safe, it's affordable, it's culturally relevant. And of course, this is a big vision, right? Are we there now? No. Will it take us a while to get there? Yes. And that's what we put out there is what we want to work toward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. It's a lifelong, multi-generational effort that we're here, right? This is the problems we're dealing with are decades, centuries in the making, and takes time to work towards them. So one of the things that you get to do in your role, from what I understand, is the Outdoors for All initiative. Could you talk about that, what it is, and kind of what's happening with it?
So Outdoors for All is a state strategy. It is a companion strategy really to some of our other big initiatives, which you've certainly highlighted here, Together Bay Area, like 30 by Pathways to 30 by 30. Which in that executive order that the governor signed to make that initiative possible also said we had to preserve 30% of California's land and waters in a way that also promoted equitable access. Outdoors for All is also complementary with many of our nature-based solutions for climate resilience. And I love the way when we can leverage different initiatives to make multi-benefit solutions. So that's always a great thing. And the strategy, which many of you participated in our community-based workshops and public comment and making stronger, is due out any day. And I know that we feel like it's, I feel like that has been the case for a long time, but we wanted to make sure to translate this document into multiple languages. And so we are awaiting those translations before going out.
Takes time, right, to put something together and make it as accessible as possible to all the people. So thank you for that work. And our fingers are crossed that it's soon that we get to see what you've been working on. How does regional coordination fit into the state's Outdoors for All initiative?
Well, I do think that regional coordination is really important because there are different needs in different regions, right? Mm-hmm. And so it is important too, I think, that as regions work collaboratively together, you can leverage one another's strengths. And, by providing regional solutions that are meaningful to what the needs are of communities in your locality, I think that's what makes the work go further, right? So the ability to say, like, come together, look at the regional challenges, and say, hey, we can do this part, or hey, let's work together to, provide a listening session, or let's pool funds to make something happen. I think that's why working regionally is really important. And one of the things I know too is that with the early draft of Outdoors for All, when that came out, we had some folks come to us from counties who said, hey, we really saw this portion or this strategy, and we're interested in making it work, at a county level or at our regional park level. And, how might we work together to make that happen? So I'm excited by those possibilities as well.
That's great. Working at a lot of different scales. And I'm guessing those county departments, county parks, if I can guess who's contacting you, they probably are neighbors to state parks.
For sure.
So there's a real interconnection literally on the ground.
And, one thing that I heard again and again in the various listening sessions is that, people simply want to know where they can go, what's around them, what they can do there, and how do they get there. And nobody cares if it's a state park or a regional park or a national park or a U.S. forest. They really just want to know what's there for me. Mm-hmm. How do I get there?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Great. How can people get involved in the work that you're leading at the state level in the Outdoors for All initiative and the report and tell how can we connect? How can local?
So in next steps, and again, you really should see this. I just would have to hide myself and not come out if this weren't out within a month. So there are many strategies in the document, and I'm already talking to folks about them, but what I hope people will do and different organizations is to see, start with what's for you low-hanging fruit and what feels like you see some synergy with the work you're doing and interest, and to bring those together and to be a part of saying, like, hey, we're already, and many of your organizations, as evidenced by today's presentations, are already well along this pathway or have been leading the work in this area and have been an inspiration to me and to my state colleagues in putting Outdoors for All together. So, I think where you see opportunities to work with us or to say, hey, we have this idea. That's what some folks have already come to me to say, and we'd like to run with this one. We have the ability to convene folks around this, can you join us, or can you recommend others from the state who can come and be a part of this conversation, and we can get going and see where we can go from here. I just love it when people just jump right in and get going.
That's great. I hear in that a lot of things, including like, let's see what's possible. Let's focus on what's possible and let's do things together.
For sure.
You know, there's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of skills and capacities and assets and resources, you know, around the state, you know, in this Zoom room and in others, and other spaces to actually work together to figure out how to move things forward. So let's lean in and do that together. Thank you so much for your leadership, Catherine. And I really appreciate what you're doing at the state level to advance access, to expand the definition and the understanding of it beyond just trailheads and, you know, the kind of point of entry, but to so much about what access means, especially like, I know that the workforce development is part of access also. Like it's a really kind of full, very, let's see, a mosaic of different ways of getting outdoors, of connecting and being a part of it. So thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for joining us today. And I think we'll wrap up. I want to wrap up today to say thank you to our speakers. And I want to encourage all of you who work for organizations in the Bay Area to join us at an upcoming event, upcoming meeting, to join us as members. There's a lot of things that we're doing that are very visible and accessible to anyone. There's also some work that we're doing that is just with our member organizations. And so I really encourage you to learn more, to get involved. We're having, as I mentioned earlier, an open house on October 26th, and it's a great opportunity to come learn what Together Bay Area is all about, and to ask questions and meet the team and learn more. So I really encourage you to lean in, to take Catherine's advice, you know, to find ways to build partnerships, to learn more. I see the field trip, call for more field trips, and to have some fun, to smile, and to do more, to create more equitable access in the Bay Area and across the region. Thank you all so much for coming today. And as Stephen invited us to do a few minutes ago, it's time for lunch. Please go make some time for yourself to really have lunch. Pretend that we're all together, and we'll see you at the next Together Tuesdays, which is November 14th. And with that, thank you everybody for coming. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.